Robotics by Helena Domain. Essential question: how do robots solve problems? Working robots. There are a lot of places we'd like to go, but can't. Dangerous places, distant places, inaccessible places. We can explore these places by sending in robots. These mechanical adventurers have computer brains that don't feel fear or panic. Killer levels of radioactivity? No problem. The black airless vacuum of space? The crushing pressure of tons of ocean water? Tiny paths through ancient rock? Bring it on, say these brave new robots. Andros 5, for example, handles live bombs for the Baltimore, Maryland Police Department. Rosie was built by a team at Carnegie Mellon University in Pennsylvania. It can safely roll into highly contaminated nuclear facilities and wash them down or take them apart. Houdini might be considered Rosie's baby brother. This robot can enter hazardous waste storage tanks to clean them. You want me to go where? In 1994, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, teamed up with scientists at Carnegie Mellon University and the Alaska Volcano Observatory. They sent a robot to explore an active volcano. Scientists explore volcanoes to learn how they work and how to read the warning signs of a volcanic eruption. An 8-legged robot named Dante 2 climbed down into Alaska's Mount Spur, 90 miles, 145 kilometers west of Anchorage. Dante's job was to explore the crater floor and take gas and soil samples. It was something that no human could have done. Dante's designers knew the descent would be very tricky. The north wall of the volcano has a 1,000-foot, 305-meter drop. The south wall is steep and covered with rocks. Designers gave Dante servo motors, mechanisms that help Dante's main computer. The servo motors allow Dante to raise and lower each leg as the robot climbs over rocky surfaces. Dante's foot pads and legs also have sensors. The sensors keep it from crashing into rocks or falling into holes. But even with all this technology, nobody trusted Dante to make its own decisions. Dante was connected to its human team by satellite and the Internet. Its main computer analyzed every step before it allowed the robot to go forward. Eventually, Dante reached the floor of the crater, safe and sound. As Dante gathered samples, the robot's cameras sent a 3-dimensional view to the computer screens in front of the scientists at the volcano's rim. And, thanks to something called Virtual Environment Vehicle Interface software, the scientists felt as if they were right there in the volcano with Dante. But a near-perfect robotic adventure ended in a way familiar to anyone who's ever climbed a steep hill. Dante slipped in some loose dirt on the way out of the volcano and could not climb out. The science team had to call in a helicopter to rescue the robot. Analyze the text. Sequence of events. What steps does the author describe in Dante's adventure? How does this section provide clues about what you will learn in the overall selection? Dante 2 makes its way beside a river in Alaska. Unfortunately, no one can fly to Mars to save robots that get into trouble. NASA landed twin rover robots, Spirit and Opportunity, on Mars in 2004. The robots were sent to explore the planet, collect soil and rock samples, and take pictures. Spirit and Opportunity are all alone on the red planet. They are millions of miles from Earth, and Mars is a far more hostile place than the inside of a volcano. Mars is very cold, averaging minus 67 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 55 degrees Celsius. Its strong winds whip red dust across the rocky surface of the planet. The rover's connection to NASA is tricky, too. Communications between the robots and NASA scientists are sent through millions of miles of space. The information travels via computer connections to orbiting spacecraft and antennas on Earth. As the rovers roll across Mars, any helpful messages from their human teammates on Earth are delayed by several minutes. So the rovers are designed to make many of their own choices. They are given jobs, but it is up to them to figure out how to get them done. The rovers also have a survival instinct programmed into them, It helps them adapt to unexpected situations. The exploration rovers collect rock and soil samples and take photographs on Mars. The incredible shrinking bot. Scientists at the California Institute of Technology are working on the designs for a tiny snake bot to travel through the human gastrointestinal system, the stomach and intestines. As a doctor looks down in a patient's throat for swelling or other signs of illness, the snake bot would look at the patient's insides. A camera and sensors would help the snake bot gather medical information for doctors. The snake bot's information would help doctors diagnose disease. It may even help in therapy. But without question, the tiniest and most daring medical robots are being designed in Sweden. The Swedish microbots are smaller than the hyphen between micro and bots in this sentence. The microbots are made of silicon. The silicon is coated in gold and then covered in polymer, a plastic compound that can shrink or swell. This allows the pieces of the robot to bend so it can pick things up and move them around. The Swedish microbots are designed to operate in all kinds of fluids. The research team imagines a time in the near future when the microbots can be injected into the human bloodstream. Doctors hope the microbots will be able to clean up the plaque that causes heart attacks and break through the blood clots that cause strokes. The microbots could also remove bacteria. One day, they may even fix disease-causing cells. In the old sci-fi movie Fantastic Voyage, 5 scientists and their submarine, the Proteus, were shrunk to microscopic size. They were injected into the bloodstream of a fellow scientist. Their mission was to reach a blood clot in their friend's brain and save his life. What Hollywood imagined as movie fantasy in 1966 is becoming science fact. Miniature robots from New Mexico's Sandia Laboratory also explore tight spots. Sandia researcher Doug Atkins designed the miniature robots to work in swarms, like insects. They communicate with each other and with a central station. Artsy robots. The Sony Corporation's Curio robot took center stage, literally, in March 2004 when it conducted the Tokyo Japan Philharmonic Orchestra. Curio can perform many tasks, but Sony, a Japanese electronics company, wanted to show off the robot's ability to control its motions. Curio held a conductor's baton and led the human musicians through Beethoven's Symphony No. 5. Japanese automaker Toyota has also proudly produced a musical robot. The Toyota robot can play When You Wish Upon a Star on a trumpet. Toyota says it hopes to soon have an entire robot band ready to belt out tunes. Who's got the ball? Robots aren't all work and no play. On May 4, 2003, robots from around the world played soccer in the International RoboCup Federation's American Open. The event was held at Carnegie Mellon University. Hiroki Kitano established RoboCup in 1997. He hoped that it would lead to the development of robotic soccer players good enough to play against human athletes. The first 1997 tournament was a little chaotic. The robots had a tough time finding the ball. They struggled to recognize their teammates and figure out which goal they were supposed to aim for. As engineers improved the robots' vision systems, play improved. By the 2001 games, the 8-inch, 20-centimeter-tall wheeled robots in the small league were doing better. They played 2 10-minute halves on a field the size of a ping-pong table. Their soccer ball was an orange golf ball. The Sony Corporation sends its Aibo team to the Open. Most RoboCup players are two-legged, but the Aibos are little robotic dogs. The Aibos kick the ball by getting down on their elbows. This position allows them to use both front paws. Play is slow and a bit goofy. The Aibos are, after all, still amateurs. Curio was designed to test controlled robotic movement. Aibos, robotic dogs, compete in a RoboCup soccer game. Thinking robots. Bertram, your robot butler, rolls into the living room and says in a flat voice, "Dinner is served." You're slouched down in the corner of the couch. "I'm not hungry, thanks," you answer. Your parents or friends might ask if you feel all right, or if there's anything they can get you. But Bertram has no reaction. He simply rolls back into the kitchen without a word and puts away the uneaten dinner. Bertram has understood your reply, but he can't respond to your tone of voice or your body language. And most people, Alice and Bruce discovered, really don't like that about robots. Bruce is a researcher at the Robotics Institute at Carnegie Mellon University. Bruce is part of the Institute's Social Robot program. The program studies ways to improve interaction between humans and robots. In Bruce's experiment, a laptop computer was attached to a robot. The robot stood in the hall of a college classroom building and asked passing students a question. Sometimes the laptop screen would be blank, but sometimes it showed a face with a range of expressions. Bruce was not really interested in the students' answers to the questions. What she was interested in was the students' willingness to stop and talk to the robot. She found that more students responded to the robot when it had a face. Like Bruce, others who work with robots have realized that humans prefer robots they can relate to. They have developed robots that can show human emotions, such as anger, happiness, embarrassment, and sadness. An experimental domestic robot from the 1970s works in the kitchen. A student pauses to talk with one of the social robots at Carnegie Mellon University. I feel, therefore I am. Kismet the robot was designed and built by Cynthia Brizal, a researcher at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's MIT's Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. The lab is home to many kinds of interesting robots, but Kismet is not like the others. This robot can display emotion. Kismet's lips can pout or smile. His eyebrows can arch, and his ears can wiggle. A combination of clever computer programming and sophisticated engineering has given Kismet the ability to actually respond to a stimulus in an emotionally recognizable way. If you say words of praise to Kismet, he will smile. Bright colors also earn a smile. So does his own reflection in a mirror. But raise your voice and scold Kismet, and his lips will sink into a frown. And when Kismet becomes overstimulated by too much noise or movement, he will withdraw, lowering his eyes and taking a kind of robotic timeout. Kismet is lovable, not just because of his blue golf ball-sized eyes. Kismet interacts with people and shows he has understood them through his facial expressions. His success in relating to people may be reflected in the fact that everyone refers to Kismet as he instead of it. Kismet was developed to interact with people. Heads will roll. His name is David Hansen. In 2003, he showed up at a science conference in Denver, Colorado, carrying a head. The head was backless and bald and bolted to a piece of wood, but it was still pretty. It had high cheekbones, blue eyes, and smooth rubber polymer skin. Hansen set the head down on a table. He plugged it into his laptop computer and tapped a few keys. Everyone stopped to watch what would happen. Moments later, the head began to move, turning right and left. It smiled, sneered, and frowned. Hansen, a robot scientist at the University of Texas at Dallas, called the head K-Bot. K-Bot can mimic the major muscles in a human face. It has 24 servo motors under its specially developed skin. Digital cameras in its eyes watch the people who are curiously studying it, and software helps it to imitate what it sees. Analyze the text. Domain-specific vocabulary. When the author uses a term such as polymer skin, she is using language specific to her own field of study. How does the author help you understand this term? What other technical words does the author use? How can you figure out their meanings? David Hansen designed K-Bot to express human emotions. Hansen has built several robotic heads, but he isn't the only one. In Tokyo, Hiroshi Kobayashi's face robots, as he calls them, are also eerily lifelike. So is the head sitting in Fumio Hara's robotics lab at the Science University of Tokyo. Hara's robotic head can scan the face of the person standing in front of it. Then it can compare the face to those in its memory bank. Once the robot identifies which of 6 emotions the person is expressing, tiny machines under the robot's skin remold its face to mimic what it sees. For Hara, hands are just the beginning. His goal is to design a robot that is interactive, friendly, and most of all, familiar. But do we really want a robot that looks just like us? Maybe not. In the late 1970s, Japanese robot engineer Masahiro Mori did some fascinating research on how human beings interact with robots. Mori discovered that people like friendly-looking mechanical robots, but Mori found that when robots look too much like humans, people stop liking them. Mori called this sudden shift the uncanny valley, the place where people begin to feel uncomfortable with human-like robots. Fumio Hara poses with a skeleton of one of his face robots. The face robot's network of wires and pulleys is covered with a flexible skin. Experience is the best teacher. Engineers have begun building robots that can adapt to their environment. They operate on what are called patterns of behavior. Most of these robots are quite small and behave a lot like insects. Insects don't really think. They rely on their senses and instincts to find food and survive. Like insects, the little insect bots have been equipped for sensing their physical environment, but they have not been programmed with any data about their environment, so when they are first turned on, they're brainless. But the insect bot's computers are programmed with separate layers of behavior. The behavior layers help an insect bot learn about its environment. The more it learns, the more it can do. Once the insect bot has mastered one layer of behavior, the next higher layer of behavior kicks in. With each layer, the insect bot gets better at dealing with the world around it. At MIT, James McClurkin has built robot ants using these layers of behavior. But McClurkin's ant bots are even more amazing because they are able to signal each other when they find ant bot food. In other words, the ant bots learn how to work together to achieve a shared goal. The ultimate ant bot, however, is yet to come, one that can communicate with real ants. A robotic ladybug, developed by Sanyo Electric Company, sits on a leaf. Isaac was built to help people who have physical handicaps. Improvements focus on learning skills and response to human emotions. I believe, says Hans Moravec, a research professor at Carnegie Mellon, that robots with human intelligence will be common during the next 50 years. Certainly, the Center for Intelligent Systems, CIS, at Vanderbilt University in Tennessee, shows how close we are getting. The CIS has developed a robot called Isaac for Intelligent Soft Arm Control. Isaac can express emotion and has both short-term and long-term memory. And because this robot's brain has been designed to think much like ours, Isaac may soon actually be able to dream. It seems almost certain that in the future we will share our planet with robots. What we build in the lab will have the potential to become as smart as we are. It may even improve upon its own technology. Will we love these robots or fear them? Time will tell. Analyze the text. Main idea and details. What is the main idea of this selection? What details does the author give to support the main idea?